Hello, everybody. Welcome to the kickoff event of the Surreal World Assets Buildathon. I'm really excited to see so many of you here. Let me just open the chat so I can catch some of the good vibes. Everyone, please do say hello in chat. Maybe send some gifts, send some reactions. It's really great to see how many people are already joining us. And I hope you're all super excited to kick off. Wow, chat is going absolutely crazy. Love that from everyone. So what we're here to do today is to kick off the Surreal World Assets Buildathon and have some introductory workshops to learn everything that we need to know to get started. So to do that first, I would like to introduce myself. I am Rebecca. I am a program manager at Encode Club. A little bit about Encode Club for those of you who are new to the community. I'm sure I'm seeing a lot of familiar names in chat, so it's great to see you guys back again. But for those who are new, we are a developer education community. We help developers learn, build and forge their careers in emerging tech. We do this through a series of programs like Educates, which are online educational programs, hackathons, which of course the Buildathon is a type of hackathon, accelerators following on from hackathons, boot camps, and also a bit of recruitment. So there's lots happening at Encode Club, and you should definitely stick around in the community if you are new. And to those who are familiar faces and names, it's really great to see you again. So my screen is a little slow here, so I will get started with the next slide as it's coming on, so bear with me here. I'm going to welcome to the stage Omji Park, who's the Head of Research and Operations at Encode Club, to come and say hi.
So hi everyone, it's great to see all of you being very active in the chat. As I can see there, like EP flying up, the gift by Jonathan, like everyone is very excited to see that. All the projects coming out of this Buildathon. Many of you perhaps come here because you are especially interested in like all the IP and all the story projects, and also like amazing partners joining here from all different type, and then gonna have a workshop which is very special. There are gonna be some unique workshops maybe you never saw, like for like a fashion IP, or like you're gonna handle like very techy stuff but with a very creative people. So there's a lot of fun thing to build. And the amazing thing is you can see that all different tracks and all different workshops are made for you, while we're also going to have the contest in the end that all of you are going to have the voting to your favorite projects towards the end of the hackathon. So all of us going to be enjoying this ride together, and Inca team will be here for helping you. All the logistic include like if you have any questions, whom to ask, you don't know, please come to us. We will be helping you. If you have amazing idea to build, we have amazing people in the team helping you out, shaping those ideas and tackle all the projects. So please stay tuned, and all of you must have received a lot of information from us, which Rebecca is going to walk you through. So I will not overwhelm you with all the details, but please stay tuned, read everything. And if you still don't know what to do, like you can always come to our server and asking questions and technical questions, or like even just like general hackathon related questions. So everyone, stay tuned for all the new things coming up. We are very excited to see, and see you soon.
Thank you very much, Omji, for coming in, giving us some advice there. I'm trying to keep up with the chat, guys, but it is going a bit wild and I can't scroll whilst also controlling my slides. So I apologize if I miss anything. I will go back through at the end just to make sure. But for now, we're here to kick off this Real World Assets Buildathon, where we're solving real world problems with real world assets. The Buildathon is, of course, being hosted by Story, and we have Jacob is going to join us on stage shortly to give us an ecosystem overview. So for those of you who don't know a lot about Story, don't worry, you're in the right place. You are going to learn, and it's going to be great. But for now, of course, a massive thank you to Story for hosting the Buildathon. But also we have to thank some of the wonderful partners who are also getting involved with the Buildathon. So we have dBridge, we have Third Web, we have Fleek, Gelato, Juxtamode, Crossmint, Tomo, Yakoa, All Network, Holoworld, Zapper, and Gaia. So a massive thank you to all of the partners who are getting involved with bounties. A lot of them are in chat currently or backstage. So shout out to them. And if you are, make sure you say hello to everyone. Lots of these partners are going to be running workshops in the coming week, so you'll get an opportunity to meet them. And it's going to be a really fun time. And also great big thank you to the community partners who are working with us for the Surreal World Assets Buildathon. So we have XPin Network, the Network School, and Angel Hack. The Network School is actually running an IRL Buildathon based in Singapore. So if you are based in Singapore, you should definitely check that out and get involved with the IRL Sprint in association with the Buildathon, because that is a great opportunity. So there are partners and our community partners. Now to give you a quick overview of what's happening in the Buildathon. I won't overload you with too much information now because there's lots to get through today, but a slight overview here. For the Buildathon, we have 6 tracks. More information about all of these tracks is going to be shared by Jacob very shortly, so you can get a deep dive from him. But the TLDR is we have 6 tracks and there should be something for everyone. So looking at these tracks here, they cover a breadth of skill levels. We have a non-technical and creator track. We have a data and search track, a front-end track, and then a load of technical chats, including one about AI agents. The prize pool per track is there's $5,000 allocated per track. Please check out the Hacker Pack for more information about how the track prize pools are broken down, because that's always important to know. The Hacker Pack also has all the detailed information about the tracks too. But alongside those 6 tracks, we also have 12 bounties from our amazing partners with over $20,000 worth of prizes in the Buildathon, aside from the track prizes, which is massive. There is so much opportunity here, money literally flying everywhere, as Jacob said, and I'm sure there is a good gift in that somewhere, so hopefully someone shares it in chat now. So the Buildathon partners have bounties of their own, and again, the information on these bounties are in the Hacker Pack. You should definitely check them out and read them in detail, and then there are going to be dedicated workshops associated with a lot of them. So you can come to these for some mentoring, some support, and to learn everything you need to get started. Now, one of the big things that I always get asked at the start of any hackathon or any buildathon is, how does it work? Can I build multiple projects? Can I submit for multiple bounties? Can I submit for multiple tracks? And the answer is yes, yes, and yes. You can build multiple projects, you can submit for multiple tracks, you can build for a main track and a partner bounty, a main track and 2 partner bounties, just a partner bounty. You can do any and all of the above. We suggest gently that you focus on the core parts of your project. Don't try and put in bounties where they're not needed just to try and meet the criteria, because then you'll sacrifice the quality of the overall project, which means that although you've hit more bounties, you don't actually win anything because you haven't done any of them to the highest standard that you could have if you just focused on the core parts of your project. So that is my personal advice, but if you want to try and hit every bounty, you are welcome to try. I think it would be very difficult, but if you're up for a challenge, I guess maybe you can do that. So that is how it works. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I can also help you. An overview of what is happening in the Buildathon. So obviously today we're kicking off, and then we have a week of really, really interesting workshops lined up, including, super exciting, this week we have the CEO and co-founder of Story coming in to do a founder mode presentation. So that is a super special opportunity to hear from a co-founder in themselves, get advice for them, ask them questions, and find out a bit about his journey. Lots more happening as well, so please check out the Hacker Pack again, where all of the workshops are listed in detail. You should have calendar invites for all of them. If you've made it to the session today, you can definitely get in because you have the calendar invite attached. Apparently it's a rare SWA op. According to Nick from Story, so even better, you don't want to miss it. The workshops are all happening at a similar time every day. As I say, it's in your calendar. If you do miss them, the recordings will be shared, but we highly recommend that you attend them live. This gives you the opportunity to ask questions and engage with the rest of the community, meet some of the story team, and really connect with everyone. And it just makes the Buildathon more fun. Why do everything sitting behind a screen by yourself when you can interact with everyone, as I can see you all doing in chat now, that I absolutely love. Another really special thing about the Buildathon is that we actually have an IRL component. So at the Encode Hub, which is where I am right now, which is an awesome building in Shoreditch in London, we're having an IRL meetup towards the end of the Buildathon. So definitely come along, come and meet the team, come and meet some of the community who's also building. And it's going to be great fun as we come up to the submission deadline, which is on June the 15th. So make sure that is in your calendar and you're ready to submit your project by June the 15th. Some great London themed gifts in the chat there. I love to see it, and I'm hoping that those of you who are based in London will come and join us, and I'll get to meet you in real life. And then in late June, of course, we have the judging and the demo day period of the Buildathon. Okay, so a few final bits of information from me. So I've mentioned the Hacker Pack a lot today. This is arguably one of the most important resources that you're going to have for this Buildathon. Everything that you need to know should be in this Hacker Pack. And to access it, as you have accessed this room today, you will have an email which has your unique code and a link to the Hacker Pack. Once you've put that code in once, you should be able to get in again and again, because it should keep in your memory. But make sure that you have this code and you have the link to the Hacker Pack, which will also be in Discord. And make sure that you're reading everything in detail, because if you have any questions, it should be answered there. That is bounty questions, track questions, technical support, workshop schedules, how to submit, what you need to submit, how to form a team, literally everything. Can people still apply to join? Yes, they can. With the same form that you joined with, if you share the link with them, they can still apply. You can still apply up until the deadline of the Buildathon, but we suggest applying earlier so that you have access to these resources, because without them you're going to be hacking blind, as they say, because you won't know you won't have access to all the resources and the links that the partners want to share with you. And then finally, the last thing to talk about from my side is what you should do if you need support in the Buildathon. So there are two places you should go. You should join the Encode Discord, which I know a lot of you are already in, because I have seen you there. But I'm gonna get the links for you now for both of these. So you should join the Encode Discord, where you'll have access to the announcements about what's happening in the Buildathon, access to mentors from some of the partner bounties, and access to the team formation channel, importantly. And also all of the resources and recordings will be posted there. And then also join the Story Builder Discord, where you can meet the story team and get loads and loads of technical support. They should be able to help you with any and all questions you have building on story. So that's the kind of culmination of everything that I want to share with you today, because I want to jump straight into our next portion of the launch, which is the ecosystem introduction from Jacob. So I'm going to find Jacob in our very busy room now, and I'm going to invite him up to join me. And then I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll allow him to share his.
All right. Hey, everybody.
Hi, Jacob. Thank you for joining us. Chat's
Thank
going
you.
wild.
I know, there's so many people in the chat here. I'm going to try to share my screen just to make sure this works, and then I guess we can kick off.
Yes, let's do that.
Is this working?
Yes, looking good. I can see the presentation if you want to put it in full screen.
All right.
Looking good.
Perfect. Okay, let's go. Yeah, I guess I'll just get started. So first of all, thank you so much to Rebecca and the whole Encode team. You guys have been amazing, just super helpful, and obviously a great introduction by Rebecca there. It's great to see you all. I recognize a lot of you in the chat, whether you're from the Builder Discord, previous hackathons, or even a different company maybe I used to work for. A lot of different people in here, and it's so good to see you all again. I am very interactive when I do these things. So if you have questions, or you whether it's about this or whatever else, please ask in the chat, and I will be happy to answer. I am going to basically walk through an intro to Story and what it is. And then at the end, we're going to talk through all the different tracks and some project ideas that you can actually take and run with if you want to build throughout the hackathon. And I will say that tomorrow I'm doing a technical workshop that's going to be a live coding session, and I'm going to walk through using our SDKs and smart contracts and etc. But today is going to be totally just an overview, a conceptual overview, and then track. So let's just dive right into it without further ado. So yes, please ask any questions in chat. Okay, so what is IP? And this actually answers Adam's first question, so this is kind of helpful. Intellectual property is a lot of things, right? It's real world assets, hence this hackathon, like songs or even physical goods. And then things like, digital content, right? Memes, a logo, characters, right? Even code, Fortnite, video games, right? There's so much IP out there in the world. In the new digital age with social media, everyone has turned into a content creator at a global scale, right? So just unprecedented reach, views, clicks, everything. And each part of it is IP, right? Whether it's a TikTok video, whether it's the song, whether it's a remixed version of the song. And one thing that sort of has shocked me throughout the past couple of years is artists or musicians actually releasing remixed version of their own song to sort of like front run the remixing that's going to happen by other artists, right? So there's a lot of IP out there. It's getting remixed heavily, and it's across all socials. And AI on top of that is supercharging, right, this content production quality in a matter of seconds, right? And this is something we've all seen the past year or two, especially with ChatGPT doing the Studio Ghibli thing, where you could just put in an image and it would Studio Ghiblify that image. And so it's turning everyone into like a Hollywood level content creator from your living room, right? You can create unbelievable images, videos, etc. in a matter of seconds. And so we should be living in this sort of digital renaissance where people are sharing ideas, people are remixing each other's work, people are earning revenue from each other's work across all social media platforms. But we're not, right? And so the reason for this is a few things. One, that there's too much. I guess overall, there's too much friction in IP transactions. There's too many middlemen. It takes time, right, to register your IP. It takes lawyers, and it takes a heck of a lot of money in order to properly register your IP and even know what is going on. I mean, if I had a character or a drawing or a song, I wouldn't even know where to begin, right? I have absolutely no idea. And on top of this, big tech platforms like YouTube, while they do have, actually incredible IP technology, it's really hard to understand their rules. And more often than not, you'll see creators just posting a video, praying it doesn't get taken down. And then when it does, then they are, screwed, right? So it really is difficult to sort of navigate the IP landscape and figure out, what's actually wrong and what needs to be improved. And so again, despite this sort of global distribution of social media, of content, of any IP, and these godlike tools, meaning AI, there is no golden age. And again, the gating problem is not really speed or performance, because AI is creating this content in a matter of seconds, but IP attribution and monetization, because no one is getting paid. And so AI remixing is inevitable and illegal, right? We see here the Times sues OpenAI and Microsoft over AI use of their work, right? AI, as we all know, is obviously just training on the entire internet, right, and not paying back to creators. And this is one of many examples, is a fake Drake song being used by generative AI that was released out into the world. And actually, yes, Wannabe, you are correct. This New York Times lawsuit was actually the first. It was embedded into the first block of the Story Network. So that is a great shout. But yeah, so this fake Drake song, and like I said earlier, when Sabrina Carpenter releases a new song, she's not just releasing a new song, she's releasing her song and 15 different remix versions of it so that other artists don't sort of take it and get money for on things like SoundCloud and Spotify. And then also more recently, we saw Jack Dorsey, the ex-CEO of Twitter and previous CEO of SWA, I believe, and Elon Musk tweeting, delete all IP law, right? And this is quite an obvious take from these two people who, have, I guess like a major LLM being Grok, right? Who is struggling with sort of, ingesting all this content, and they don't want to pay back to original creators, right? Because it's a lot easier to train on the internet and not have to care about the consequences, right? And so it sort of leads us to this tragedy of the commons situation, which is really like the core issue here that we're trying to solve is, as we look into the future, right, as AI continues to ingest the entire internet and not pay back to creators, we're going to see this tragedy of the commons situation, which is described as, a lose-lose scenario, right, where AI trains on content, creators do not get paid, and if creators don't get paid, they completely lose incentive to make content, right? Their revenue model completely collapses. And if the revenue model collapses for creators, they simply will not create. And if creators do not create, AI will have no more training data to train on. And so AI will remain in this sort of dead space of old IP where it's not improving. And again, because creators are not being paid, they are also not creating. So it's a lose-lose situation that, works for nobody, right? And so, again, this is an example where you have this traveling blog, right? And you ask Perplexity to tell you about the best time to travel to Southeast Asia, and it's going to that blog, it's ingesting the content and returning that back to you, right? And this sort of deletes the old revenue model or the old contract of the internet, which said, hey, if you come in and you read my blog, right? You like Google, like you basically go to Google, you say, hey, I want to learn about this, and you click on this blog, right? And this blog is really good, right? From this writer, and they get money because of ads, right? That was the old contract of the internet, was if you make good content, you'll get money because of ads. Well, this is actually, really no longer, right? And this was actually something that our CEO that you'll hear from later in the week, SWA Lee, his original startup called Byline actually attempted to address this issue, which was, how can we maybe flip this model so that writers actually pitch to readers initially, almost like an initial fundraising round, but for like articles. So because this sort of old contract of the internet, this revenue model was breaking. Of course, now it's it's turned into story. But just it's cool to think about that. And again, I really recommend checking out his workshop later in the week. So to harness AI positively, we need a internet native IP system, right? This is because, as you can see in this diagram, copyright law can only cover so many things, right? Print, books, and art, radio, film, TV, gaming. And then there's, social media remixing, co-creation, and then generative AI completely expands this landscape, right? And the issue is that copyright law was designed in a world where, content was not being created in literally a matter of seconds, right? So, in the old days, you could, let's say you wrote a book, right? You could take that book that you spent hours, not even hours, days, weeks, months, years writing, and then register it, right? But now when we're in this new system where social media remixing and co-creation have expanded this field, and AI has expanded it a tremendous amount more, right? Almost to infinity, we can no longer rely on copyright law to individually license and monetize each piece of IP, right? It's just not possible. And so we need to embed programmable IP license terms into, right, AI agents and LLMs so that they can license and monetize and pay back to creators at the moment of remixing, right? At the moment of making money. And so this is sort of where story comes in to the picture, right? So we see that story, again, sort of just like copyright law covered print, books, art, radio, film, TV, and gaming, story, the world's IP blockchain, is now covering this infinite landscape of AI generative content. And so story is creating an internet-wide IP Legoland where every single piece of IP, again, whether that be a real-world asset like a watch or, a song, or digital IP like a meme, right? Things that expand at insane speeds, right? And this concept, this theory is actually in a way very relatable to what we see in the video game industry nowadays, right? If you imagine, like, even, like when I was playing Pokemon right now in elementary school, you would go out and buy, a $50 Pokemon game, right? And so the game sort of had this upfront cost, right? But nowadays in the video game industry, and for those of you that know me, I'm a League of Legends addict, right? I play hours a day. It's an issue, I know. But video games nowadays, they have this sort of free model up front, right? Where you don't pay anything, right? With Fortnite, with League of Legends, these are two of the most popular games in the world. You don't pay anything up front, right? But as you sort of go into the game and you learn about it, you play it, you fall in love with it, then you buy the cosmetics, then you buy the skins. And what people in the video game industry realize is that if you allow content to spread across the internet and you encourage it to spread by making it free up front and then getting streamers to stream it on Twitch, people to post about it on social media, etc., you actually expand the reach of your game so much so that it actually ends up making you more money in the end because you've encouraged this remixing, this spread of content, and then you sort of get money afterwards, right? As opposed to the current creative industry that usually takes the approach of paywalls, right? If you want to read a New York Times article, you have to pay an upfront subscription to read that, right? Things like Spotify, where you have to pay an upfront subscription to actually listen to music, right? Or iTunes, right? So from the video game industry, these learnings show that remixing, co-creation, allowing content to spread across the internet is what really drives sort of like the clicks, right? Future monetization. It's the new monetization model. And so this is what Story is doing, is turning IP into Lego pieces, creating a infinite on-chain IP graph, almost like a Git for IP, to incentivize co-creation and monetization. So Mehdi, I'll get to that in a bit. That's a great question. I will get to that once we get to the tracks. So again, we see Story turning the static IP, right, like an image, into IP Legos that have embedded, usage terms, copyright laws, registration, and remixing. So Wannabe says, what does IP graph mean? Imagine just like almost like a graph where, you have one IP at the top, and then it expands downwards into an infinite tree of remixing, right? So you have a song, then you have the slowed version of that song, then the maybe like the sped up version of that song or something like that. And so the way that Story does this is by sort of intermixing code and law, right? The real world legal contract is called a programmable IP license. Again, this is a real legal template in the off-chain legal world that is upholdable in court, right? It's based on US copyright law. And so anywhere that you would draft a normal legal agreement, you could go to court and say, hey, I registered this IP on Story with this programmable IP license, and any court that abides by US copyright law would be able to use that as evidence in your dispute case. And what we've done is we've taken these terms like commercial use, transferability, etc., and put them directly into our protocol on Story's blockchain, so that at the moment of registration, you can add usage terms to your IP, and it's transparent, visible on the blockchain, so that you no longer have to go through complicated legal processes. You can now view them directly on chain. All right, and so as we see here, this is just one small example of our mascot, Ippy. This is Story's mascot, being registered on Story, with usage terms, with monetization, with all that fun stuff. And so here, so now we're going to sort of dive into like the actual implementation of Story. You can see down here we have Story's network, which is the L1 blockchain. Then we have that license I was just talking about. And then the proof of creativity protocol, which is, again, sort of like the smart contracts and all that fun stuff. And so Story's network is a L1 blockchain optimized for IP graphs, just like I described to Wannabe earlier, where, again, as we all know, or for those of you developers, you'll know that, storing data on smart contracts can be expensive. So we have optimized Story's network to better handle a ton of IP remixing, IP graphs, etc., and a bunch of other technical improvements that you could read here and we could talk about later in the Discord, but I don't want to get too technical right now. So let's actually start talking a little bit about the tracks. Does anyone have any questions about that initial part before I sort of dive into, some ideas or things like that? So Rochelle says, does this lead to not having to? So right, and so stories, I guess, ultimate goal is not to replace lawyers, not to replace IP law, nothing like that. It's to make it more efficient. And so this will make it so that, you won't have to go through the hours of back and forth with a lawyer trying to figure out how to register your IP properly. You could go on Story and do that. However, if you wanted to register your IP in the real legal, in the off-chain legal world, you could do that, of course. This is sort of a more efficient option for that. And you'll actually see, as you dive into Story, that lawyers are in many ways a key aspect of Story's protocol. One example being, let's say you have a dispute over IP. One option to resolve that dispute on chain could be to use AI, right? To have AI detect whether or not a certain work is infringing based on Story's, like IP license terms. Or you could use the more expensive option, which is real lawyers, right? Which can go in to Story's protocol, view an asset, view the evidence, and then make decisions, right? And then you leave that sort of, you leave it up to the person making the dispute to determine which arbitration process to use. Do you use a cheap AI solution? Do you use a middle ground, or real lawyers? So just to give you some cool ideas. All right. Oh, so your favorite example use cases. So we're actually going to dive into that in one moment, Susan. So we will get there. Honestly, I don't think so, Mehdi. I haven't seen that, but it would be really cool for you to do that. And I'll actually bring up which track that would be great to do that in. Okay. All right, so I'm going to continue just so that we don't run over time. But so there are 6 tracks today. There is the non-technical creator track. This is for those of you that don't want to develop, want nothing to do with it. But you've been thinking about an IP concept for some time now. And so you may want to build, a PRD, whatever. We'll dive into that in a second. AI agents, creative front end or UX, IP detection and enforcement, IPFI, and data. So let's just go ahead and dive right into it. So for those of you that are thinking about the non-technical track, this is a very creative track and not one that, we really have strict requirements on. It's for those of you to spend that want to spend the Buildathon perfecting an idea, right? You don't want to code. You want to imagine how your idea could impact the world of intellectual property using Story. And so this can, but does not have to be, professional PRDs, some market research, figuring out cool IPs that you could register on our portal, which is like our non-technical solution to registering IP. You want to do some outreach or whatever you want to do. This could be a Google document. This could be a Google slide. This could be, a complex diagram, whatever you want to be, or whatever you want to create. This is for you. So just imagining ways that Story could better, actually, I'll also add on top of that, if you want to use this track as a way to provide product feedback for Story, you can do that as well. So maybe even scoping out a new idea for Story, or maybe an improvement upon Story's protocol that could better impact the world, right? So this is for you. Also, as Nick said, this can also be a video of you doing a rap song as well. And maybe that'll win the prize. I can't really say yes or no. Yeah, if you want to do a rap song, if you want to do a dance, I'm all for it. We will definitely give you a couple points for that. It really is up to you. So get super creative with non-technical. Yeah. So that's non-technical. Now, the other ones are definitely, oh, and also, sorry, one last thing I will mention. If you want, we actually did like a 3-hour-long workshop on vibe coding from one of the, Twitter's best AI vibe coders. So if you want nothing to do with coding, but you kind of want to get interested in vibe coding, which, by the way, vibe coding is like asking an AI agent to basically code the whole project for you, and you can fully do it. It's amazing. I would also recommend checking out that workshop because, again, you can make a PRD or Google slide or whatever, and then vibe code the project if you want, and that would be super cool. But up to you. You don't have to code at all. Track number 2 is AI agents. So sort of the thesis here is that, AI agents generate and consume IP, right? Not only are AI agents themselves IP, right? Because if you see on Twitter, everyone's got their own AI agent, all with different training involved. So AI agents themselves are valuable IP. And more importantly, the training data that goes into an AI agent is also IP. And that, in my opinion, is actually the more important piece of IP, which again is the training content, right? The blogs, the songs, right? That are used to train the model. That is IP as well. And also the outputs, right? The generated image. When you ask ChatGPT, hey, make a Studio Ghibli version of me, right? Or wannabe here. Then, when that happens, that also is IP, right? So there's so much IP involved with AI agents. And we're seeing a shift where agents will increasingly become differentiated and specialized, right? AI agents will, in the future, as more and more spin up, one will be really good at writing a script. One will be really good at generating the 3D video content, right? And they'll talk to each other, right? So agents will transact to exchange these skills. But in order to transact, they need to communicate with each other. And there's no universal standard for communication between agents. And so we sort of looked into that and came up with a agent transaction control protocol for IP, or otherwise known as ATCP/IP. And we wrote an entire academic paper on ATCP/IP. Okay. And so this is sort of the diagram where you have two agents. One is a requester agent, one's a provider agent. And you have the requester agent, requesting some task from the provider agent, right? Let's say they're trying to make a movie together, and requester agent's really good at making the script, but they need the provider agent to generate the video. So it'll ask the provider agent, hey, can you please generate the video for me? The provider agent will then negotiate on license terms using Story's protocol, right? So it'll negotiate, hey, do you want 5% rev share? Will it cost 10 IP to do this task upfront? Can I transfer my license to do this? Blah, blah, blah. They'll negotiate on the terms, then mint the license, process the payment, and then deliver the final output IP. So if you're interested in this, we have a whole documentation page on it, how to do it on Story. So definitely check that out. And we also have a whole MCP server, all that fun stuff that's integrated with Story too. And yes, for everyone asking if the slides will be available, don't worry, this will all be available afterwards as well. So track 3, this I think is a super creative track. And sorry, who was asking this? I think it was Mehdi. So you were asking about the streaming Twitch platform. I think it'd be super cool for this track. So this is, I'm just showing you like the ChatGPT front end. This track is for those of you that want to build beautifully designed front end solutions that integrate IP, right? So what you can make your own sort of ChatGPT interface where every time an output is created, it's registered as IP on Story, right? So that's just one example. Or, we also show DeepSeek here, right? So the DeepSeek is another example of a beautiful front-end UI. And if you want to make a similar version of this, but, anytime anytime the LLM outputs an image, it's registered as IP. Or maybe anytime it does deep think and it goes across the internet to search, maybe it's paying back to those original training data, right? Or the Twitch example, right? A streaming platform where you can, basically, someone streams and their content is registered as IP. And, if someone wants to, maybe clip one of those videos, it'll pay back to them, right? And this is actually something that as someone who loves video games, and if you go on YouTube or Twitter, you'll see all the time there's like secondary accounts that repost clips from the main streamer. And it'd be really cool to automatically register as IP and then pay back to the original creator. So just a cool idea. Also, this is available for people that want to build helpful tooling for IP registration. So as we see here, this is Crossmint. Crossmint is basically a really cool solution that helps you basically create a wallet, register IP without having to know anything about really like Story's protocol. You can just call a basic API endpoint. So this track is also good for people who want to make dev tooling, or maybe this is also cool in things like Cursor or Windsurf, right? Where you want to basically, like you could create a new UI where anytime someone asks a question in Cursor, maybe it registers the code that it's training on as IP. So that too. And this is Mycelium. This is a really cool ecosystem project that basically is encouraging remixing. So you can also go in and check out Mycelium and maybe build a really fun UI for registering and remixing as well. Track number 4 is IP detection and enforcement. This is also a really cool track. This is basically a part of our story attestation service. So story attestation service, or otherwise known as SaaS, is basically a bunch of independent service providers, each proving the validity of an IP in their own way. So when someone registers their IP, how do you know if that IP is valid or not? Well, you could prove it in multiple ways. You could use an AI that scans the image and then scans the internet and sees if it's infringing on copyright, right? Or you could have a bunch of lawyers that are paid a ton of money to come in and decide individually, right? Or you could pay someone like Uma. Uma is the actually arbitration provider of Polymarket. Polymarket's like the super popular like gambling, or not gambling, but like betting platform, I guess. And Uma actually powers Polymarket, and Uma is also on Story, so that people can use it to see if IP is valid or not. It's a prediction market, yeah. So definitely really cool as well. And I actually made this whole diagram that walks through how Story actually protects IP from the moment of registration with the programmable IP license, to mapping these terms on chain, to using the dispute module to actually manually flag whether or not IP is infringing. And that's where sort of Uma comes in. As you can see this diagram where you have AI solutions that can determine if IP is infringing. You can have Uma, which is like a decentralized provider to determine that as well, or real lawyers. And then the story attestation service, which uses other things, like, for example, AI auto-detecting if something is infringing, or Verio. Verio is a super cool ecosystem project. Basically, they allow you to stake IP token on IP assets, and it's used in the story attestation service to say, like, the more IP that is staked on an IP asset, the more valid it probably is. So it acts as almost like a badge of like approval, where let's say an IP asset has, millions of dollars, so let's say billions of dollars staked on it, then it's probably a legitimate asset, right? So you're almost staking to prove that the IP asset is valid. So just a super cool like DeFi, but also IP validity project on Story. And sorry, I have not been reading chat, but I think Nick has been answering. So thank you so much, Nick. So then we get into IPFi, which again is sort of like IP finance. This is talking about like fractional IP rights, maybe creating a IP DAO, like a creator-owned IP DAO. So for maybe you have an IP asset, and then you make like a governance mechanism around that IP asset where people can vote on whether or not to, sell their revenue rights, whether or not to change the license terms. So maybe if you have like 10 people that all can vote on whether or not you want to change your commercial revenue share, right? So that's pretty cool. Staking on IP assets, earning yield from IP assets, etc. So IPFi is just anything related to IP finance. And these are a couple examples. One is Verio that I just showed you. You can stake and earn yield from IP assets. There's Story Hunt. There's PiperX. Both allow you to sort of stake, make liquidity pools, do a bunch of fun DeFi stuff. And then this is just a fun diagram of our royalty module. And a really cool project as well is IP World. So IP World is basically, you can think of like Pump Fun. So Pump Fun allows you to launch meme coins. IP World allows you to do the same thing, but in a way that it's creator backed. So the original creator, like let's say, for example, like this cat right here, right? Like this, the person who took the picture of this cat, they're not getting any revenue from this meme coin, right? But in this model, the original person who owns this IP, this cat, is earning revenue when this meme coin makes money. So also just a super cool product to check out. And then the last track, and I promise I'll be done after that, is data and search. So this is for those of you who either want to build tools that register, protect, and monetize data sets. So otherwise known as training data. So if you want to make a project that pays back to training data from an LLM or just overall data sets, that's great. Or another part of this track is search, which is the ability to build IP discovery platforms to find and license IP. So one example is this project called IP on Top. This uses Story to basically search for the top IP assets, show recent royalty data, and allow you to search for the top IPs on Story. So those are the tracks. Now, if you want to build on Story, our entire developer documentation is at docs.story.foundation. And then you can go to the developer section at /developers. You can build using TypeScript, you can build using Python, or you can build directly with the smart contracts if you know Solidity. And you can also check out the API to read data from our protocol. And Rebecca did an amazing job of this earlier, but the one-stop shop is that hacker pack that she showed. If you have any story-specific technical questions, you should ask in the Story Builders Discord. But if you have questions about the partner bounties, so the other partners that are gracefully helping to fund this hackathon and provide extra bounties, you can go to the Encode Discord as well. So that's all I have for you today. Again, if you have any questions, please always let me know in the Story Discord. We will have multiple office hours a week. So if you have any questions, you can ask me live in our Discord as well. And good luck, everybody. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll see you for the coding workshop tomorrow.
Yes, we will see you very shortly, Jacob, in less than 24 hours from now. But thank you for giving that introduction to the ecosystem. We're going to move swiftly on to meet the ARIA team, who should be getting an invite from me now to join me on stage to chat briefly about what they're doing at ARIA and how they build on Story. David, you should be getting an invite. You're joining me up now. Right. Hi, David. Hi, Rocky.
Hey, how are you doing?
Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Rebecca.
I'm doing very well. We can jump right in. I know we have not got too much time, so I will hand over straight to you guys.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll do quick intros. As Rebecca mentioned, we only have 10 minutes or so. So we'll like to make this as productive as possible. I'm Rockefeller. David and I are co-founders at ARIA, which is building on top of Story, the first Web3 platform for real-world intellectual property assets. That's, of course, a mouthful, and there's a few different ways in which we can execute on that vision. But we'll just dive into it. David, I'll turn it over to you. I think there's a few things that we can chat through and have Q&A sessions or conversations afterwards as well.
Yeah, let's just jam through. We don't have much time, and I appreciate all that background with the architecture of Story. That's great to know. We really focus on the utility on the creative and financialization part. The reality, and it's part of what we want to talk about, and I am an IP lawyer, by the way. I own a law firm, and I rep many high value innovators and creators. And to be clear, as soon as you create something, it's copyrighted. You don't actually have to spend a lot of money in lawyers. I don't mean it costs $50 to register a copyright with the Library of Congress. Not that big a deal, but I will say that Story makes attribution and royalty sharing and co-creation infinitely more useful, and of course it does allow you to track what's been done so that while it's on chain, there is that security. Off-chain, though, you lose that, and you should still protect. I don't think it's a lawyer thing, but just in general. That said, one of the things we wanted to talk to you guys about is really, enabling the Web3 ecosystem to really work with IP. And so what ARIA does is we basically work with really high value IP. If you've heard of the long tail, where there's like lots of IP and creative works, copyrights that earn a little bit of money over time. We're the fat neck. We work with iconic IP that we bring on chain so that people can invest in it, but can also co-create with it, which is really, what's great about Story. And the biggest, we have two basic programs. One of them is called Spark, where we effectively bring IP on chain, we monetize it, but we make the stems of the work. If it's an audio work, then it'll be the vocals, the instrumentals, maybe the solos, whatever. It's broken out into different stems. And then we allow people to remix the stems and then tokenize the remix. And what we do is for the tokenized remix, the currency of the new remix is airdropped to the holders of the original parent token. So, and that's the beauty of Story. Every time someone uses the parent assets on chain, the parent asset token holders are going to get an airdrop of the tokens for the new asset. And what's really important for us is a few things. Monetizing that asset, because for us, I mean, registration is one thing, but monetization is really the key. And we're going to be helping people monetize off chain and on chain, but finding Web3 monetization opportunities and consumption opportunities is really important. And something that we've noticed is lacking. And there's a lot of that being built, but the companies that can create the Web3 version of Spotify, of YouTube, of whatever, I think there's a gold mine there because of the fractionalization of the payment systems. You can pay one penny of or whatever of Story Coin, of IP, or of Aria Coin, or whatever, and you could get something. You could listen for 50 minutes or a half hour or all night if you're listening to a sleep mix that Endel's AI created of our iconic work that we brought on chain. So that kind of thing is really valuable potentially for us, but also the ability to actually remix on chain. Right now, if you get stems, you're going to download those stems as MP3s. It's an MP3 now. You can upload it to wherever you want. You can make another a blockchain with another platform off of Story, which isn't ideal. You can upload onto YouTube, and there are certain piracy controls on YouTube that can prevent you from doing it. But the bottom line is, if people can remix on chain in Story, where the stems are never really leaving the chain, that's really, really valuable. And I think that's the promise that the major labels we're talking to are very interested in, because then they can keep the consistency and the legitimacy and the anti-piracy nature of their work, where it's just not being downloaded as an MP3. And it can still be creatively worked with and tokenized all on chain. And I think that's somewhat of a holy grail that right now we're sort of overlooking, because the reality is, once you download it to MP3, whether it's registered on Story or not is irrelevant, because people can do whatever they want with it in the real world. And, hopefully it'll be up to the rights holders to chase it down, which is, basically what we're doing now. So I think that's super, super useful, but I don't want to blab this whole time. I want to knock it over to Rockefeller to discuss more aspects, but just ways of consuming on chain and monetizing that consumption for the high value major label content we're bringing on, I think would be amazing for Story, for consumers, for rights holders, and for investors. Because whenever this money is made, we're bringing that back on chain into the value of the coin. And then likewise, being able to work with these assets completely on chain in effectively a walled garden of protection within the chain, I think is super, super, super valuable. Okay, that's all for me. SJ, you want to jump in?
Yeah, thanks, David. I think basically what David hit on is super accurate, which is there is a walled garden of protection within the Story ecosystem. And to the extent that Aria is onboarding a lot of these iconic assets on chain, we kind of see ourselves as the top of funnel. It's almost like we are the means by which raw materials or rare earth materials are imported into an economy, and presumably there will be many ecosystems and apps that use the IP that we bring to create new works. So we think that there is a ton of opportunity in being able to create different apps that can leverage the iconic IP and rights that we bring on chain to create new assets and to create new forms of consumption and derivative works that can be tokenized or that can create net new things on chain versus in Web 2. So I think ideas like that will be very interesting. I think ideas also that solve for kind of pain points or problems that otherwise would exist when thinking about building this kind of Web3 economy can be helpful as well. So just to kind of think out loud and share some raw ideas. For instance, when we're dealing with an iconic asset or an estate that may have the name, image, likeness of an icon or an artist whose career obviously is impeccable and wants to keep it pristine, but also wants to experiment in new technologies. What's very important is making sure that when these assets are tokenized, that there is
that there are safeguards in place so that there isn't rampant obscenity or inappropriate images and derivative works that are created. So I think moderation and having some control that can create this dynamic of being able to keep things permissionless, but also making it safe for things to be permissionless will be very, very interesting. And maybe like an idea that's attached and similar to that, or an allegory to that is, I'm sure everybody here is familiar with WorldCoin and what they're doing for proof of humanity and such. I think in many ways, like an individual can be an amalgamation or the ultimate IP, if you will, or the kind of superset of IP. And I think many things in crypto obviously are intentionally and of course intrinsically anonymous and should be private. But at the same time, if there is an option where you can attest to yourself on chain, that can make it easier for there to be moderation, for instance, or it can make it easier for apps like Aria to be able to work with a whitelisted and select creators that are high profile and be verified that way on chain. So I think these are like very interesting ideas, just to kind of throw out a few that can be very valuable to the overall story ecosystem, but also just the Web3 world at large, because I think these are the things that will make it possible for us to not build so insularly as I think, we're used to in crypto, but be able to build with the broader Web2 and kind of non-crypto native users in mind. So I'll pause there. Again, apologies that this is so short given some of the scheduling that we had, but I don't know if we have any questions, or I know we have a couple minutes left. Happy to do a Q&A, or Rebecca, happy to give the floor back to you. Oh, I think you're muted, Rebecca.
You're right, I am muted. Sorry about that. Thank you very much, guys, for giving that overview. I'm just checking back through the chat. We have had quite a lot of activity, but a lot of it is being answered in chat already. So guys, if you have questions specifically for the Aria team, and I've missed it in chat, as Nick says, type me in chat if you would like to follow up on deep dives on all things Aria, and hopefully
amazing.
Arrange that. Otherwise, Nat Gomez would. Otherwise, thank you guys for joining us. I know you have to leave us, but maybe we can arrange for some more time with you both.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I mean, we'd love to deep dive with people, with anyone who's has ideas on this, and we could really get into what attributes would be useful, how this could be transferred to other things. But I this is hugely valuable to us, because we've been thinking like, oh, we have all these ideas, but like it's not made yet. And it's like, well, great, let's make the Spotify, let's make let's find the Steve Jobses of Web 3.0,
I love that. Yes, we have a lot of interest in chat, so hopefully we can make that happen. If you guys need to get going, thank you for joining us very briefly to give us a little bit of an introduction, and hopefully we can get some more time with you as well at some point during the Buildathon, because there's some excitement about that in chat. But feel free to get going, and we'll
thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Great to meet everyone.
Joining. So you guys are both leaving on stage now. So the only things to go through now, hopefully we can arrange some more time with the Aria team to really deep dive, like we didn't get the opportunity to today. But there is lots of opportunities for interesting conversations that we're going to see throughout the Buildathon. As an example of that, if I'm just trying to share my screen now, can you all let me know if you can see this? If not, I think I might be having some issues with my screen sharing, in which case I will cancel that. Okay, yeah, it's not working. Never mind. You're just going to have to imagine that there's some very nice slides with some very useful information on, and I will try and copy that information into the chat. Let's see if it formats nicely. Oh, not that nicely. So very briefly, this is the TLDR, is what was on the slide that I was trying to share. And what that is what is coming up next. So this week we have 3 workshops run by the Story team. So we have an introduction to programmable IP, which is going to be run by Jacob, and that's tomorrow at the same time as this launch. And then on Thursday, the very exciting one, we have founder mode conversation with SWA, which is going to be very exciting. And then on Friday, we have a workshop on developing your pitch, which could be really useful for those of you who are making it to the finale of the Buildathon. Developing your pitch is going to be a really important skill that you need to have. So 100% attend this workshop to learn what you need to know to really develop your pitch and ask some questions. As Jacob says, remember, the top finalists can pitch their projects to investors, which is an amazing opportunity. So you don't want to miss that workshop on Friday. And then next week, we have a whole series of bounty partner workshops. Again, you have all of the calendar invites for these, and more detail about the workshops can be found in the Hacker Pack, which once again, I'm going to post the link in chat. Remember, you need your project code to be able to access the Hacker Pack. But if you've made it to this call, you definitely have a project code. So just check your email and log in there and get all the information that you need. We have more bounty partner workshops being scheduled. So keep an eye out. They're on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday around this time. And a great opportunity to talk to the bounty partners, learn a bit about their tech, ask some technical questions, and also meet the rest of the community and do some networking. So definitely recommend coming to these online programs. Of course, we also have the in-person component of the Buildathon for those of you who are based in and around London. I hope to see you there. But otherwise, the only thing to do next is just to start building. So those of you who need to form a team still, make sure you join the Encode Discord and then start building. But otherwise, I wish you all the best of luck. I cannot wait to see what you will come up with, especially looking forward to the non-technical track, where I'm being told we might have some rap submissions, and maybe a dance video was something that I think I heard. So I'm looking forward to those especially, and I do volunteer to be a judge if that is needed on that track. But yes, I hope that you all have fun during the Buildathon. If you have any more questions or your question hasn't been answered in the chat today because it has been very busy and we might have missed some things, then please head over to the Discord and put a message in the forum and we can get back to you asynchronously. But otherwise, everyone, thank you for joining us for the launch event. I look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. Great vibes in the chat, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. And I can't wait to get started. Bye, everyone.